Welcome, everyone. My name's Jeff St Laurent, and this is the Tuesday Live Show coming at you each and every week. And today, if you cannot tell, I have three very special guests. They were a part of my 5-month GoProElite group mentor coaching program. And in just a minute, I'm going to introduce the three of them, and we are going to celebrate a little bit, but also give you some really good insight as a coach watching this into kind of the real work that goes on behind the scenes, because a lot of marketers just portray everything as like, oh, do this and you're going to make 6 figures in, a short amount of time. And the work and the grind to get there is it's a different story. So they are fantastic. I'm going to bring them on in a second. Just so we know, I do record all of these live shows. I put them on my website, sellingcoaching.com, in the university. I have a lot of great resources there as I help coaches transition to a full-time business. If you want to start right off on the homepage at sellingcoaching.com, I have a great resource. If you enter your name and email address, it's going to give you instant access to my audio program there. And it's launching your coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. Whether you're starting off or been doing it for a little while, there's some valuable information in there that's also going to put you into my email community where you stay up to date and share a lot of great information each week, and let you know about some of these great things that I'm doing. With that being said, I also have a 14-day GoPro challenge. If you want to check that out, the next dates for when we're going to be doing the next one, you can visit GoProChallenge.com. And that leads me into these 3 wonderful women, Michelle and Licia and Rachel. You can say hello.
Hi.
Hello. So the 3 of them did my 14-day GoPro challenge as of now, probably a good 6-7 months ago-ish. And after the GoPro challenge, they all decided to join my 5-month GoProElite group mentoring program. And so here we are on the back end of that. We finished off, call it like a month and a half ago or so. And I said, what a great way to culminate our work together, to kind of have a little celebration, but why not do it on the Tuesday Live Show? So not only we can celebrate, but kind of reminisce and go through kind of like the stuff that, where we started off at, what did we all go through, and then the work we did, and then, where do we end up after 5 months? Obviously, it's a story in progress for all of them, but I think in a matter of 5 months, you can really see the progression, or at least, I'm sure we can all see the progression. Since we start us off, like, I'll just go around real quick and just kind of give us an idea. Maybe Rachel, start off. Where was your business? So you did the 14-day GoPro challenge and then joined the 5-month, GoProElite program. Just give people a snapshot real quick about, where your business was when you joined us.
Well, I joined the GoPro challenge. I believe it was in August that we did it. And I did it because of my experience with you through IPEC. And I graduated IPEC, got my certification, and I was like, okay, now what? I had the coaching tools and just needed some direction on how to be consistent with my business. And so I joined the GoPro challenge, not really knowing exactly what to expect. And so when I started doing lives, I was like, okay, I was freaking out a little bit, but when I did that and I really got myself out there and started using my voice, started telling my story, started, I guess, just stepping into my own personal power as a coach, I was like, okay, this is the direction I need to go. And so then I started working with you, through your mentoring program, and started really just focusing on consistency. And that was my main goal, is just being consistent, because like you say, there's so many shiny objects out there, and squirrels that I can chase. And I do. Like, there's a squirrel out there right now. So, but anyway, so that's where I'm at. And just the consistency was key for me. Is where I was at.
So starting off, really, you were starting from scratch though, right?
Correct.
You were starting from scratch, didn't have much in terms of, like, you had a website, correct?
Right. I had a website.
Yeah. But other than that, like, really narrowing down kind of your message and then all of the structures and systems, you didn't have any of that starting off.
Correct.
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to get in that snapshot of where you began, because obviously we'll talk about all the great things you accomplished. Licia, what about you? Kind of a snapshot of kind of where you were, because we're in a similar position.
Yeah. So I had some clients, but I had pretty much tapped out on the friends family list. And so it was time for me to expand and grow. And I wanted to try some things that I guess I did have an inner fear of doing lives, to be quite honest. That just seemed, that was kind of traumatic for me, to be honest. And so it was extremely powerful, helpful, all of that, to be in a group where it wasn't like we were asked, right? We signed up and said we were willing. And so I just had to embrace the challenge and see it as an opportunity. And that was what I needed. And then I also had an email that I had set up but hadn't utilized not one time
Like an email
because
list, right?
email list,
Yeah.
yeah. And just it overwhelmed me to think about what to write, how to even press the buttons on my laptop. I mean, it was just a weird, when I think back, just kind of weird. So I just didn't do anything with it. I kept saying, I don't need that yet. So again, it was perfect to be in this group because that's what we did. And so I just embraced it
Yeah.
and moved forward like a 5-year-old. Really?
Yeah, you just came in. I mean, all of you came in very trusting, and that's why I always appreciate about all my clients. You know, when people that come in just trusting the process, trusting myself, and I always have that. All right, let's just do this, and you started from there, and you knew some of the things you needed to do, but it just and you had a few things set up, but you weren't actually executing on them.
Right.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Michelle, what about yourself? Because you were slightly different, same category, but I'd done a few different things as well.
Yeah, so I joined while I was still in the coaching program. My story is a bit different. I quit my corporate job and just kind of figured out that I wanted to start my own business last year. So that's how I landed at IPEC, and then that's how I heard about you through IPEC. And when I joined the 14-day challenge, I really needed that push for me to start speaking live and to start telling people what I do, because I was maybe 2 months into building my business. So the 14-day challenge, I saw a lot of growth, just getting out of my comfort zone every single day. And then that's why I decided to sign up for 5 months. And then I can see how much I've also grown in 5 months. Similar to Licia, I had a mailing list and a system, but nope, I never used it. So now it's being consistently used. And then speaking more in person or on lives, and then really getting comfortable with the sales process. So that's where I'm at right now, and have just seen a lot of growth within myself over the last 5 months.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to see all of you, where you've come. And it's interesting you talk about the email list and whether we created it from scratch or, a few of you had, you had something set up, but never used it. And then obviously that, the natural fears that I think anyone would have, doing a live broadcast like this, right? But solo, for education for your business and stuff. So maybe Licia, start talking about that a little bit, as we started to implement some of our baseline systems of marketing to stay top of mind and in front of our audience, doing the live broadcasts, sending emails on a weekly basis, which I know you're all doing, right? Talk about some of the work that went into that and the consistency of it.
I think first for me was even streamlining in my own mind who I was serving, what my intent was, because although I knew I way too wordy, I was using a lot of words unnecessarily, and it became evident when we started doing the lives because I was struggling to try to capture everything and not sound like I was reading. And it was because I was trying to memorize too much, too many words, and too broadly. So, but I wouldn't have known that had I not gotten out there and struggled a little bit with that to figure out what I needed to do so that I could stay focused on the 1 or 2 points that I really wanted to present.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, just learning by learning by trial and error is necessary. Otherwise you don't know.
It's true. And I know for you, as we got into more of the conversations, the sales conversations, as we started to market and get out there more, I think for you, one of the biggest things that I saw with you is that you were, like you said, too wordy, but also you were very vague in your wording,
Mm-hmm.
right? As like you weren't
Yeah.
as direct with the ask or wasn't as clear in reading your emails,
Right.
really what you were going after. And just briefly talk about kind of how that started to shape up for you in terms of how that helped you with your marketing.
Yeah, so I also started paying attention to other people who had been doing it longer than me, just to kind of get some ideas of why it was easier to figure out exactly what the point was, So I really overall in every aspect needed to reel it in and be more concise, which is funny because part of what I do for others is to help them gain clarity, but yet it took me a little while to figure out that I needed to get clarity for myself as well. So I'll
Yeah.
be the first to admit that. But just practice and doing it, getting rid of the fear about that truly held me back and prevented me from taking the first step at all on my own. So being in the group, coming together and talking with, Michelle and Rachel and yourself is what really helped me to just pull the trigger, as they say, and take the first step and go ahead and venture out where I knew I needed to be and wanted to be, but just hadn't done it.
Yeah.
So
And that clarity, I think, is that big piece. Let me go back to Michelle, and then we'll get over to Rachel. Michelle, like talk about the clarity in your message. Because I think that for you, that was like all the way through, right? There was a constant evolution of, we knew the general space, and you could talk about it more specifically in a second, of where you were and who you were helping. But then, the clarity with which you were sharing it. And I think the cool part that I saw is it evolved over the 5 months and up until now, and it's still evolving, but it didn't stop you from doing the work. Like I would say, like, well, just let's do the work. Let's still get it out there. And you'd always come back and be like, oh, I'm not quite sure. What am I saying? Or what's my package? And you always come back and I'm like, well, this is what we have for now. Just get out there. And here you are. You started going out there. You started getting clients. and sometimes you didn't even feel like you knew what you were doing. Talk about that evolution of your message and how that influenced your online marketing and how that helped you with your target audience.
Yeah. So for me, I think it was this idea that I am a career coach, but it's like, well, what about me, what makes me different, right? So I think throughout the time, I really got better about positioning myself, like bringing different aspects of my corporate background in and of my own personality in the message, as opposed to just being like, okay, well, I'm a career coach and I help so-and-so. But getting just more comfortable with myself and my story was a big piece of it. And you're right. I think it's still evolving. And I think that, it's going to continue to evolve, but at least the fear of putting myself out there and telling people what I do has gotten a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for you, like just getting, like you just been getting it out there. I feel like that's, what would you attest to the evolution? What has helped with the evolution, at least for the time frame that you've been working at it?
I think what has helped has just been really reframing my thoughts around like what it means to like share my story and share my message, because a lot of times we end up having these like beliefs in our mind that like, oh, I shouldn't be saying that I've done so-and-so or that I had this experience, but like that's actually what makes us really unique. So being able to get rid of that barrier within my mind, and then have people like recognize me as that person because I shared that message or because I shared that story. So I think that was a really big breakthrough for me, and why I continue to just keep showing up and like putting myself out there, because it probably resonates with people more than I think, as opposed to like, I'm a coach, I'm a career coach, I can help you, but like actually getting more into the details of like my own story.
Yeah, it's good to hear you say that, because that's what gives you like the fingerprint, right? We all have a unique fingerprint, and the fingerprint your story, which you could take a generic, if I can say it like this, a generic niche of career coaching or transition coaching, et cetera. And, you stamp your story onto it and what you've been through. And then all of a sudden it gives it shape and it makes it unique. And I think also as we start to, even bring in Rachel for you, like there's been an evolution of your message and your comfortability with it. But obviously, as we went through the course, I'll bring in like some of your own challenges, like you had COVID, right? And like you were sick through part of it. But the cool part is if I can say the cool part is that through the work that you were doing, obviously you had your time where, you didn't do anything for a week or two because you were really sick, but it showed your fortitude for like creating the course that you created, marketing it, launching it. So if you can start to talk a little more of like around, some of the real work and like what you had to go through on a daily, weekly basis. Cause I think for you, it was the consistency of doing the work. It was the scheduling of it all. Right. And it was making time to, and we did this with everyone, right? Like trying to get our specific activities that we worked out into, okay, when are we doing them on a weekly basis? Starting to track some of that stuff on some spreadsheets. So you could all come back to the group and be like, here's exactly what I did this week. So talk about that process for you through all life's challenges and how you were able to make it work.
Oh yeah. When I came into the 5-month program with you and the ladies, I was just getting recovering from shoulder surgery as well. And so I was hesitant to go into it, but just take the leap, like you say. And through COVID, through, just life happens, and making my business a priority. And one thing I really learned from you, Jeff, was to whatever you do, be consistent, and even if it's something small, just be consistent with that. And so just being consistent with, number one, getting my email out, and number two, do my lives, and just having that consistency, and then trying to add something a little bit new over time. And for me, and I love what Michelle and Licia shared, is about narrowing down my message and just doing it and saying it and being consistent over and over again. And eventually I start believing it myself, And so, and with that is just knowing what my why is. And that drives me to, I might fall down. I might, oops, I did something I didn't want to do, but getting back up and having that, like you called, the baseline of my business. And I had that to fall back on. And so just having accountability as well with you and the ladies. And there was times I got on Facebook, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So I have to acknowledge my own neurodiversity with ADHD and some other stuff, other factors that come into play for myself, and just acknowledging that's where I'm at. This is what I need, and set myself up for success.
Yeah, and that was huge, being able to, we all have stuff to deal with, right? But being able to get on some type of a regimen or a schedule so you know what needs to do, so you can start to be consistent with it. So you can do it repetitively to start growing your confidence. One more thing I want to ask you before we move on, Rachel, for yourself is, for you, what I was impressed with is, whenever we were talking about following up with people and reaching out to people, you would draft some emails, and then you'd send them to me. So, hey, Jeff, here's, I think, what you said, and here's this person I want to reach out to. And it was like, I was reading the emails and I'm like, oh my God, I felt like I wrote the email, but obviously you wrote it and crafted it specific to yourself. Talk briefly about, like, as you started to market and reach out to people to try and set up, let's say, speaking engagements, virtual workshops and seminars. What was that process, learning that process like? Because coaches are always wondering about marketing and how do I market? But what was that, like, the real execution of actually reaching out to people via email? And talk about that, what that was like, learning that.
Well, learning it is just kind of listening to what you were telling me as far as, presenting times, keeping the message concise and direct, be direct in my ask. What am I wanting? And with that, and just hitting that send button, because sometimes, like, oh my gosh, why would they want to talk to me? But hitting that send button and just being open and honest and being myself. And so those three things and just doing it has been really huge. And being, like you said, being consistent. Okay, I look at my spreadsheet on a daily basis, and I'm going to try to reach out to one person a day. And so with all those and just doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just being able to get over, like, you had the guidance, you had the, the script, so to speak, of that you can work from. And then it's just a matter of like, I gotta hit send and see what happens as a result of it. Which is cool. So Licia, talk about, I think one of the things I remember, the one-on-one call that we had, where you were like this epiphany of like who you're actually working with. And it's not like we didn't necessarily know it, but I think the way you started to frame it and see it, and you can get specific so people can get an idea of what you do as well. But talk about what happened that got you to the spot where, oh my God, I feel like I'm clear, which really set the path for everything else we've done.
Yeah. So when I was still in IPEC, I started creating how I thought I was going to show up in my business. And I planned on having two separate businesses, one dealing with individuals, individual leaders who are seeking clarity and confidence to go to their next, to transition to their next. But then my secondary business in my mind would pertain to consulting employers or organizations that handle workers' comp claims for their employees. And because I've lived in that world for 22 years building programs and for a large retailer, my vision was to be able to use that experience to help smaller organizations streamline, get people back to work quicker, and then also save money, of course. And I launched that last year, actually in March, did a few webinars with people who are in the business who happened to be gracious enough to host me. But then after I did those webinars, I had to take a step back, and I thought, that's not where I am anymore. It doesn't, for me, I realized I was literally leaning toward working with individuals doing exactly what I said. But for whatever reason, it took me, I don't know, maybe 7 more months. Finally, it clicked recently. All I really want to do is go back into my industry, which is workers' compensation, but offer the same exact services that I've been offering to all these other people who are not in the work comp space, but the need is exactly the same. People who are leaders in organizations or lead themselves still want clarity and want confidence so that they can move toward hopefully being proactive about what they want next for themselves professionally or personally. So that's a huge need still in the workers' comp industry. I'm not sure why it took me a while to figure it out. I made the whole process way too complicated, but by showing up and doing the lives and then writing copy, sending out the emails, I'm certain that trying to frame my words around how I wanted to show up that way is how I finally pulled it all together and made this, something that seemed really daunting and complicated really was super clear. And I remember talking to you about it, and it was like in that moment, all of a sudden I thought, oh my God, why am I not doing this? Why had I not seen this all along? And what you don't know, Jeff, is that I've got a second speaking engagement coming up. Both of them are in April, but two different groups of people that I didn't know, but that other people connected me with because of reaching out saying that I'm looking for opportunities to speak. So it really does work.
It takes a while to allow it to unfold. So thanks for that update on those results. But the cool part of what I was really giving you the thumbs up for is and what I want people to listen to is like you trusted the system. Like, all right, I'm going to do a weekly email. I'm going to do a weekly show. And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to figure out as I go along.
Right.
And we can't think it through. Like we can have a conversation. We've had conversations and talk it through logistically, but it doesn't always work. And sometimes you just got to just put the message out there week in, week out. And at some point, at some destination later, it's like, holy crap, which is cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk, Michelle, talk about results now. There was a week, I think back in December where, we were helping you through some, qualifying calls and helping you understand the process more. And it was like, Jeff, I get 2 paying clients in 1 week, right? And that was after the raise we gave you, right? I'll let you talk about that in a second. But then since then, like, I know you said to me, Jeff, I want to make sure that this isn't just like, a blip in the road. Like, I'm getting a couple clients a week. Fantastic. But I want to make sure that there's some consistency to this. And here we are now 2 months later. And I mean, I don't know all the exact numbers because our program ended since then, but any conversations we've had, like, it sounds like, yeah, you've been consistently getting clients. So just briefly talk about that space, because it wasn't like it just happened. Like, there was a lot of work that went into that. But as you've been starting to get more clients and now getting clients on a fairly regular, consistent basis, just talk about that a little bit, and that process for you.
Yeah. So I think when I first started, it was like all through my network. So most of the people that I worked with originally were like within my network and they knew me. So that week in December when what you were referring to, where I got 2 clients, it was like, oh my gosh, these are new people that are like completely out of my immediate network. And that was like a big breakthrough there, in addition to the new rates. And I think that just gave me a lot of confidence to just keep going. So since then, I've like signed on like 4 new clients, like 2 last week and 2 in the month of January. So it's been good to just see the number of calls like come in on a regular basis. I know as long as I'm having conversations, and that's really what I can control. Like what happens in the conversations, like really holding that space, really knowing how to lead them through that process. But I can see the growth that I've had, by just getting more comfortable with it from where I started, where I was like, I don't even know how to have a consult. I don't even know how to lead them through the conversation. But now being like, okay, I'm more comfortable in using my own words and like finding my own style. But it's still a work in progress. But yeah, I'm excited to see the results. I think now having a more consistent stream of conversations, like that gives me a lot of confidence. And a lot of it is just like continuing to show up and being persistent and continuing to learn with each interaction.
Yeah. And that's what I'm going to highlight from what you said is you're having conversations. Mm-hmm. If you're not having conversations, you're not going to get clients. That's the bottom line. And when you start having conversations, right, we also start to understand the process we can take people through. And I think for you, like, that has been the evolution of that process, like you said very early on today, understanding the sales process. And I think for you, like, the patience of it all, right? Yeah. What do we mean by the patience of that process?
So actually, when I look back, I think I was like doing a lot of this background setup, like, okay, I'm doing the emails, I have my system in place. And then it was like, where are my clients, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not coming through. So having to be patient with, like, I'm setting these things up. And once I start to scale and once I start to have a more consistent stream of clients, and I'm like, I already know what to do. So you would constantly remind me of patience, because I always wanted to be here. I always wanted to have like a fully booked business, but like it just took some time to like start seeing the pipeline grow, and I can see it. I can see that like in the future.
Yeah. And that's just understanding it and always being reminded of that as we go through. So as we start to wrap this up, Rachel, just like off the top of your head, what for you do you think was not only the biggest value of what we did together, but the biggest results that you've created from that? Because I mean, you've created a lot of systems, you did your program, things like that, but like, just for you, like, what's been maybe the biggest results that you feel you've created walking away from our work together?
A system a baseline system, and to fall back on, and like Michelle was talking about, just having conversations and just doing the work and having patience that if I do the work consistently, then I'll get the results. And so just consistency, doing the work, and just doing it. I like, we don't have to have it all figured out at once. We can evolve, giving myself permission to change and navigate and take a left, take a right, and just explore. And so all those pretty much is what I'm taking away with it.
Yeah. And I heard a big thing, a thread of trust in there. We might say trusting the process, but trusting now with yourself and trusting the work that you're doing, that if you do it consistently enough, it will pay off. I think that's a big thing. Like, people I'll be working with them. They'll do the work. And then a small amount of time goes by and they're like, I'm doing the work. What's up? And I'm like, dude, just keep doing the work. Like we need more time, Licia, what about for you? Biggest value of work together, or, what you're taking away from what we've done so far?
Ooh, I feel like I've come a long way. I can't even, for one thing, I wouldn't narrow it down to one, because I needed all those things to move forward and to feel like I was seeing traction and comfort and confidence, all of those things. So for me, it was the email, it was the live, it was creating the Facebook business page. I mean, just all of it was necessary.
Yeah. Like, we'll just say the whole part.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's too. And for you, I think looking at you is having the confidence in your message. And I just remember every time, like, other people were in like what we call our focus seats. Like, I'd be looking at your face sometimes. So I always like to keep an eye on other people's faces while I'm working with one person. And I just remember you in particular, every time you weren't in that seat, like the faces you were making, and then we'd always go back to you and you're like, man, I learned a lot there. And like, you know what I mean? It was just how you would refine things moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So
group coaching is a good thing.
Yeah. Michelle, what about you? Your biggest value of the work, and what do you feel like you're taking away at this point so far?
Yeah, I think it's that I have a strong foundation of what I need to do moving forward. And obviously, like, just getting momentum, like really pushing me to start seeing results and start seeing like this evolve. But yeah, having a strong foundation for sure.
And you think about it too, like we work together, let's say with the GoPro challenge, let's call it 6 months. And let's just add another month on the end of that, as we finish the group and stuff like that. So let's just call it 7 months since we started working together, all of us. Like, think about a 7-month-old like child. Like, what do you accomplish in 7 months of your life, right? And do you expect the child to walk? They don't even really walk till at least 8 to 12 months, right? So we got to think about our progression with that, and our evolution as a coach, liking to the evolution of a child. So thank you all so much. And this isn't for today. This is for I always get emotional because I'm so passionate about what I do. But thank you all for trusting me. Thank you all for showing up every stinking week, no matter what was going on, through Christmas, through New Year's, through making the calls and doing the work, because it's not easy. And I'm sitting here, I know the work because I do it myself, but it's easy to talk and tell you what to do. And that's another thing to actually go forth and do it. But you all kept in touch with me. You called me, you emailed me, you said, what the heck am I doing? Help me out here. And you did the work. And I so appreciate that. Makes my job, more rewarding than anything when I have people involved. So wish you all nothing but the best. And of course, we'll all stay connected in our journey, and who knows where our paths will cross again. But, and thank you also for coming on today as well. So